So hi everyone, good evening, a very warm welcome to each one of you. So this is 𝗕𝘀𝗶𝗀𝘀, Operations Manager at the team MOS. So I'm very happy to see you all today with us in our first session on cloud security series. So today we are starting with the session 1 of cloud security fundamentals. So this is going to be the first session of our series where we will be gradually exploring different areas of cloud security. So I hope you will continue joining us for the upcoming sessions. So with me, I have 𝗦𝗲𝗰𝗀 sir, so who will be taking this session and the throughout cybersecurity series. So sir comes with 40 years of experience in IT industry, including 21 years of experience in TCS. So he worked with multiple companies across multiple sectors like IT, infrastructure, cloud services, and he has done various ISO standard certifications as well. So without a further delay, I would request sir to get started with it. So I would request everyone to stay engaged. And if you have any questions, kindly feel free to put it in the chat box. We will definitely take it up at the end of the session and in between as well. So I think we can get started with our series, sir. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. This is 𝗦𝗲𝗰𝗀. I hope I'm audible. My screen is visible. Thank you all. So let us start this series of sessions. So today we are going to cover what is the foundation of the cloud security, and I hope most of you are preparing yourself for cloud security related certifications. Out of cloud security, there are two international international certifications on. Personally, you can get certified on cloud security foundations and cloud security related certifications. One is from 𝗕𝗹़C𝘂𝗱 CCSP, and another one is cloud security. We'll see that CCSK. So there are two separate certifications are there. We'll see how you are enabled with this particular foundation course. Will enable you to get prepared for yourself to get certified on your track, on your lifelong learning track, right? So we'll see that, right? So acknowledgement, materials, whatever I have taken, all are from internet, from 𝗕𝗪C𝗂𝗃 organization, and from 𝗕𝗪C𝗂𝗃 organization, from 𝗦𝗲𝗰𝗀𝗃 organization, as well as from Cloud Security Alliance organization, right? So CSA, that's called CSA, Cloud Security Alliance organization. Why it is so important? Today we are talking about cloud security. What is the difference between information security, application security, cyber security, internet security, intranet security, right? Network security. So we talk about multiple securities. Why are we focusing on cloud security? The meaning of cloud security is our data, our informations are getting stored somewhere outside your organization. The perimeter is not within your own organization. It's outside the organization perimeter, right? So it's stored, either you may be engaging with your private cloud partner, or you may be engaging with a public cloud partner like AWS, Azure, or Amazon, or Google Cloud, or Alibaba, and various public cloud service providers are there, right? You might be using one of them. Then how do we secure your data? Your data is not within your own premises. So how well you can secure the data which is hosted in some other country, some other data center, which is nowhere you are in control of that. So that's what we are going to see. What is the roles and responsibility of a cloud customer, cloud service customer, and cloud service provider, right? So what is the difference between them? How we are going to see who is accountable for in case something happens, right? So we need to see that in detail. So for that, the Cloud Security Alliance is given multiple examples or multiple roles and responsibility metrics, CCM, right? We will see that as well during the course of our training session, right? So in cloud computing, what is today's the international or the global market share between AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, or Oracle, Alibaba, Salesforce, Huawei, and various other people? If you count all the major players, right? So AWS's market share is 28%. If you count all the public cloud providers, it is around 77% of the market share is domination by all these major vendors. The remaining 23% are related to private cloud vendors. Like in India, you might be seeing cloud providers like Tata Telecom or Jio or NTT. There are various small players are there within every country. They provide specific services to in a private cloud, right? They engage with you directly. They have a contract with the customer and provide a specific services, host your servers in their platform and things like that, right? So in the scenario, any of the data is outside your premises, your customers' data, you are providing a services to your international customers, right? So your customers' data are your own customer, your own data, as well as your customers' data. You're hosting it in some other partners, service providers, data center, right? How safe those data are there? Who is accountable in case there is a data breach happening or a virus attack happening in the data center? Right? How do we measure? How do you monitor? If it is there in your own data center, you will have a SOC center, your NOC center, you have a SIM, SOAR, all that. You will have internal monitoring team to monitor all that. So in a cloud environment, how are you going to monitor all that, right? That's what you are going to see that. The market share is always growing, right? So with AI enablement, right? So AI is hosted in all the AI, whatever we see, right? So Gemini or AI, ChatGPT or all DeepSeek, all of them are hosted in some of the major vendors where they are hosting all your CPU, GPU configurations are already available in cloud platform. You have to consume all that, right? So the GPUs you can consume directly. Like it's all specifically hosted for those major vendors in a public cloud or a private cloud vendor, right? Then NVIDIA is coming up with all the GPUs, right? The market share from NVIDIA is increasing because the requirement for the cloud consumption is increasing month on month in this year 2026 onwards, right? So that's what the statistics says that. So when you increase GPU requirement, the data center itself, right? The data center itself require a huge amount of power, right? When we talk about on-premise data center, you may not even consume, right, 1 megawatt of power, right? When you're going to host AI data center, we are talking about around 150 megawatt power consumption is required to run a data center in a single data center, right? So which is a huge power requirement, which requires if you can compare with that particular 0.5 gigawatt of power consumption, which is actually you can run multiple power station requirement is there, right? So many power station has to produce so much of power to run the data center. So that is what current requirement, and it's going to be ever increasing requirement for power consumption for data center. That's how it is increasing. So we, as a profession, from security point of view, we have to enable ourselves to provide services to your customers, or as long as you are working in a company which provide in-house cloud services to your own data center, your own customers' requirement. So you may be managing some of the cloud services. So fundamentally, you should be aware of what are the security requirement perspective. So we will understand all that, right? So as we talk about, they are providing like the AWS or Google or Azure. They provide in terms of virtualization, right? Virtualization started when VMware comes up with virtualization concept. The concept has picked up, and it is virtualization is the fundamental principle for providing a virtualized environment for you to consume. Specifically for I need to have one EC2 server, you will get it for whatever requirement what you read, right? So that is what it is about the virtualization, the concept, right? So we will have multiple services are provided by AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. Like AWS is having this one single screenshot shows around less than 100 different multiple services provided by AWS, like EC2, like ECS, Lambda function, Batch IoT, right? So all those services they provide in that, right? So some of the services are specifically for security function, right? So that's what those are the functions we have to be very familiar with that, and making sure we are equipped to provide services to our customers in terms of those particular technology. So these the two examinations or the certification I talked about are vendor neutral exam, meaning they don't talk about specifically AWS or Azure or Google or a private cloud vendor. So that is what we need to be familiar with that, right? So Azure is this particular one slide talks about around 100 multiple services where Azure is providing for that, right? Google's cheat sheet talking about various services, what Google is providing all that, right? So when we talk about infrastructure as a service or platform as a service or a software as a service, these are all the three services any private or public cloud provider is going to provide, right? So when you compare an on-premise data center, and you construct with a starting from the data center, the foundation, the networking. On top of that, you have the storage, server, virtualization, and one virtualized environment. You install multiple different operating systems like Linux or Ubuntu or whatever operating system, Windows, anything that you can install it in the virtualized environment. On top of that, you install your middleware requirement like IBM MQ series or whatever middleware you require to run MQ series things like that. On top of that, you have the runtime, and application is going to be running on top of all the environment, right? So within an on-premise data center, it's everything is controlled by your IT team or your security team. So the moment you start exploring opportunities to leverage the functionalities or the opportunity that the on tap pay by use, right? So those are services which cloud service providers are providing. When you start consuming that, your cost of running the data center is reduced to an operational cost. Instead of capex, we talk about capital expenditure, which is completely eliminated when you start consuming cloud services. Either it may be IaaS or PaaS or SaaS. You are going to consume the services provided by the cloud provider and pay for the amount of services that you have consumed, right? So there are multiple services they provide. In infrastructure as a service, meaning up to the virtualization, the cloud service provider is taking care of that. In the platform as a service, they take care of your software development environment or the application development environment, your C compiler or whatever software development compilers. All the software development system they manage on the responsibility of the cloud provider. You need to manage only the software development on top of the environment, on top of the platform that you are going to manage, right? So the data and the applications are only your responsibility. When you start consuming the software as a service, right, everything is managed by the application service provider. And what your responsibility is only identity and access management of the application, who need to have access to that services. Only that you have to provide access to that. The rest of the things are all managed completely by the service provider, the cloud service provider. So when we talk about these things, right, so we are talking about very high level certain task. When you want to exactly look at what are the tasks, what are the roles and responsibilities which are required by or shared between the cloud service provider and the cloud service consumer, it is listed in the form of CCM, Cloud Control Metrics by Cloud Security Alliance, which I just wanted to talk about that in a minute. Then we'll go into other details, right? So CCM, which is an Excel sheet, you can download it from Cloud Security Alliance website. So which is a free all the set of documents are completely free from Cloud Security Alliance. In that particular document, CCM, Cloud Control Metrics, they are talking about 198 total controls, right? So from starting from audit and assurance, they are putting it in ascending order. That's why this audit and assurance come in the top front, right? They go into always go up to the operational level, cryptographic maintenance and all that. That totally there are 198 total controls are there, right? Each control objectives, and when this control is to be managed by when it is hosted in an IaaS platform or a SaaS platform, who is owner, who is accountable, who is, so here talking about this is shared responsibility between cloud service consumer and cloud service provider, right? So then they are also talking about how the architecture of the cloud service providers architecture, the physical environment, physical security is provided by the service provider. They are owning it. Network is owning by them, and so they give a complete list of compute, storage, application, data, and all that, right? So they are given a complete list of various parameters, and then they give who is accountable for that. Then they are also talking about within the team, within the organization, which team is going to own it. Cybersecurity team or internal audit team or architecture team, who is going to own it? Software development team, right? Operations team, and then they go to legal team, privacy team, GRC team, supply chain management team, and then even they talk about HR management. So it is giving a complete roles and responsibility, RACI chart, who is accountable in a shared service model, right? So we have to be very clear in that. Out of 198 controls are very clearly documented in this manner. They also give, when you wanted to assess a particular private cloud vendor, right, and what are their capabilities, then you can take this set of controls and convert it into a form of a questionnaire or self-assessment questionnaire, which is called CAKE, right? Which is called Consensus Assessment Initiative questionnaire. It is the same as the 198 controls, which is listed in the form of a questionnaire where the cloud service provider, they can say whether they are compliant with that or not. That is how they are documenting that. So can we take an example of any cloud service provider, AWS or Azure or Google? Are they compliant with this? Right? Are they providing a compliant with this type of CCM or Take and all that? So you can always reach to the website from AWS. Let me go to AWS assurance, AWS compliance, AWS compliance, right? AWS compliance website. You directly get into that. You can see what are all the compliance they are comply with that, right? So take the compliance program, and you can able to see all these programs are downloadable free of charge, right? So they are certified, or AWS is assessed. An assessment has taken place already, and or a certification program they have taken, ISO 27001, which meaning they are certified on ISMS, Information Security Management System. They are also certified on ISO 27017, which is specifically for cloud services. The ISO standard talks about how your data are secured in the cloud platform, right? So ISO 27017 is talking about the cloud computing requirement for how the data are protected in the cloud computing requirement. So they are specifically certified on that. Right? Coming back to other certification, the main certification which I am talking about is TSA, the Cloud Security Alliance Program certification, which is called CAKE, right? Which is we just talked about, right? CSA Star certification. The CSA, the Cloud Security Alliance, they provide us the ultimate certification called Star certification, right? What is the Star level, which is certified on that? It's security level. Star certification level 1 is a self-assessment. Level 2 is excellent certification. Continue to monitor this level 3 certification, which meaning they are continue to assess on a regular interval year on year, and then comply with all the requirement of the self-assessment, which is nothing but 198 controls we just talked about. right? So initial assessment, if you can download from CSA's website, and you can have a look at that copy of that. The same 198 controls, what they are talking about is whether how they are complying with that. Let me zoom into one or two examples of that. Right here, are cryptographic secure standardized network protocols implemented for the management import and export data, right? That was a one questionnaire, and it is cloud service provider owned, right? So they are saying they are owning that. So it's not nothing to do with the cloud service customer responsibility. Let us take an example of a cloud service customer responsibility. This particular requirement, or uh, cloud service customers are able to programmatically retrieve their data via application interface to enable interoperability or portability, right? It is possible, and who is the accountable for that? It is cloud security customer, cloud service customer owned, right? So they need to take care of the responsibility. They are responsible for that. In some responsibility, it is between a shared responsibility or communication between the environments encrypted. Yes, it is encrypted. I mean, the AWS storing their data in S3 bucket and all that, it is encrypted. It is a shared responsibility between cloud customer as well as the cloud service provider. AWS is maintaining cryptographic standard to protect the information in transit and as it at rest also, right? And what is the customer responsibility? So they are giving a customer need to retain the complete control of how they choose to classify their content and do that, right? So who is managing the keys for the encryption, things like that. So they may use to choose when data in transit, data in motion, they may need to choose the other protocols like transport layer security, TLS protocol, things like that. So it's a shared responsibility. That's what I'm saying. So when we talk about the shared responsibility model, AWS is already certified by Cloud Security Alliance CSS Star certification program, and they are also continue to evaluate on a yearly basis. So they are compliant as of now on a yearly basis, right? So that's what similarly all the other cloud service provider are almost all the provider are already certified. If you wanted to check with a private cloud service provider, you are evaluating, right? So you may be checking with, you wanted to engage your services with a local service provider, maybe geo service provider. You can take up this questionnaire as a part of evaluation of a service provider and validate, are they providing services, make it very clear that who is accountable for the data which is hosted in the cloud platform, right? So the perception from any management, right, from the senior management, when they start using the cloud services, they always think, right, it is the responsibility of the cloud service provider has to manage end to end. That perception need to be broken, and it is the joint responsibility. Some of them are really accountable. You are customer, as a customer, you are accountable for making sure the identity and the access management or the passwords are recycled or encryption, particular algorithm, whatever you choose. Most of the activities which you need to do, like identity and access management, user management, all that is your responsibility. If it is going to be an IaaS platform, the patching the server, web server, or on a virtual server, it is you are going to be the responsible for that, right? You need to manage that. That you should be very clear about understanding this concept. So that is what we are just at a high level. I'm talking about it. Coming back to our program here, so we'll see lots and lots of threats are there. Like the threat in the sense, when the data is hosted in the cloud platform, right? Breaches are always happening and continue to happen. There is no way we can stop attackers wanted to exploit some vulnerabilities and get into your network and take your critical crown jewels or your corporate data. So they make money out of it, and they do some ransomware attack and various type of attack, or they sell your data in the dark web to make money out of that. But from a security point of view, right? From the security professional point of view, how well are you going to protect your customers' data or your own data in the cloud environment? Right? So first of all, you need to know what type of attacks are really happening across the world and year on year. Right? You are already aware of OWASP. OWASP is releasing once in every 4 years. The seventh layer, application layer breaches, which has already happened over the last 4 years. They publish it as a top 10 OWASP top 10, right? So which is specifically focusing on an application layer vulnerabilities which got exploited, and it is publicly available as what are the weaknesses which got exploited. That's what the top 10 is all about from the OWASP. Similar to OWASP, the Cloud Security Alliance on a yearly basis, they publish cloud-specific vulnerabilities, cloud-specific threats, right, which got exploited already, which is getting exposed in the form of top cloud threats. In year 2022, they highlighted insufficient identity and access management, key management was major issue, right? Because of the key management, attackers able to take your login keys, cryptographic keys, and then they do all sort of other usage, right? They may be consuming your services. They may not really interested in your data, which is there in the S3 bucket. They are only requiring your CPU power to do the Bitcoin. They wanted to engage your servers to compute for Bitcoin. They do crypto mining process, right? Crypto mining is one process which Bitcoins or cryptocurrencies are generated. For that, they need huge CPU power, right? For that purpose, they consume your servers, right? At the month end, you will be seeing a huge bill, right? You never thought that you have never consumed any of those servers. So those type of attacks have really happened in sometime in 2022 because of the key was mismanaged, or key was accessible to attackers' work. So that was in 2022. When the recent one, which is in 2024 also, they have published it. You can always go to the website, CSA website, and you can download those documents from Cloud Security Alliance document, top threats in 2024, right? So that's what the document is. I'm showing that. Here also it is talking about the misconfiguration. Misconfiguration is who is responsible for that, right? It is the person who is managing the data center, cloud data center servers, is making some mistakes. Those mistakes are vulnerable to the environment, which get exploited by the attacker to expose your data, right? So that is the topmost priority. So which meaning it indicates the administrators or the server administrator, the cloud administrator, or the application administrator at all levels, right? So they make some vulnerable mistakes by doing misconfiguration, right? And the second also is the identity and access management, where users are excessively provisioned access permission. Sometimes, right, it is just not human being access alone. It is all in cloud environment. We are talking about non-human entity, which is nothing but an application to application talking to each other through application programming interface, where the keys required, the cryptographic keys to when application talk to another application or a service talk to another service, which needs a key, which is nothing but the password or a cryptographic 128-bit or 256-bit cryptographic key is required to enable the services need to be provided by the other services, right? Those keys are never refreshed or modified or changed over a period of time, or the keys are breakable by the attacker. So that is what the identity access management interface where the topmost things are there, right? In 2025, year 2025, they did the analysis. Various attacks really happened on the cloud platform, right? Let's take one example of that. Multiple attacks have happened. The Microsoft also was attacked, right? Even attackers were APT29 is a advanced persistent threat group called 29, which is nothing but the Russian attackers group. They were successfully broke into Microsoft development environment. So that's what which is called a midnight blizzard attack, which will take up that one and then see, right, a slide on that. Right here, they are talking about this midnight blizzard attack, APT-29 attack, which has happened, and attackers were able to get into a development environment, and then they created an account within their Entra ID environment that get replicated to the production, through which they actually get access to production MS Exchange or Microsoft Exchange Server access, and they are able to get the senior management peoples of Microsoft email boxes they are able to access, and they continue to read those emails. It came to light when later point in time only. So, which meaning the complete 𝗦𝗲𝗰𝗂𝗍 framework, right? Then we talk about attack framework, starting from reconnaissance to exfiltration of the data. They have lived in that environment quite some time, and then they are able to see that data only when the data got leaked. The data leakage prevention protocol that identified that some data are getting across to Russia and all that, it got they found out. So, which meaning their internal security team or whatever tool they have, they could not even find out this type of things are happening inside. So, which is on the cloud platform, right? So, which is excellent example of cloud threats are real, and it is continued to happen with the AI enablement of all the 𝗕𝗲𝗰𝗂𝗍 and things like that. So, it is the 0-day attacks are no more 0-day, it's a 0-hour attack in a year. From 2026 onwards, 0-hour or 0-minute in 2027. Right? That's what they're talking about. So the AI is enabled all the moment some vulnerabilities are found and exposed into the internet. Those vulnerabilities are getting exploited as a real attack on a whichever customer they have that vulnerability, they have the system that got exploited. So, which all indicates the importance of as a service provider, as a employee of the organization, as a service security profession, right? And we need to equip ourselves to protect the organizational cloud data as well as your customers' data in the cloud environment, right? For which you need to know the foundation, the experience, and the knowledge and the skill set to take the driver's seat, or take when you are in front of the system, and you should be thoroughly knowledgeable enough to make sure you are making the right decisions or doing the right risk assessment, things like that, right? That's what I'm saying. So we have to be very careful and always focus on protecting the data. If it is going to be a privacy related data, you are much more serious impacts are there. If you are non-compliant, and huge penalties are there in GDPR, penalties are in DPDPA in India. If your data are leaked, so it's a huge penalty the organization need to pay. It's all boiled down to your SOC team, SIM team, SOAR team. How are they equipped to protect the customer data in the cloud platform? I mean, the other side, it is a minute with AI enabled, and AI enabled ransomware attack, AI enabled all this type of attacks are happening. Unless the defensive mechanisms are ready to protect it, and the organization at some point in time they will fail. So that's what the entire importance of this training session is, to make yourself equipped with cyber security, with cloud security, which is the requirement of the hour. That's what I'm saying, right? So we'll move on to so in order to get certified, right? One is Cloud Security Alliance certification as well as CCA. Let's take up those two certifications. What is the difference? Why are we talking about these two different certifications and all that? Let's take one by one. Cloud Security Alliance, okay. So, right. So, Cloud Security Alliance, you can talk about certification CCSK, Cloud Certified on Cloud Security Knowledge. Basically, it talks about around 12 domains, and then it's a 2-hour exams of 60 questions, right? Yeah, so it's an open book questions. You can take this exam from your home laptop. It's an open book, and you just schedule it. You can run it on your uh, at any point in time, right? So they give a preparation material. It's all going to be focusing only. The questions are going to be coming from only from the syllabus and from the book, whatever they are giving it. This materials are excellent material, CCSK version 5, right? So you can go through the training material, the core content, and you can download. All of them are free of cost, right? So this is a certificate. Once you pass this exam, you'll be given a certificate called the CCSK certificate. It is lifelong valid. There is no need to renew and all that. As long as when they come up with CCSK version 6, you may be able to take up the other exam separately. But your CCSK version 5 lifelong, the certificate is valid, right? That's what this one is talking about. The other one is CCSP certification. CCSP from 𝗕𝗔𝗀𝗃 certification is closed book exam, and you have to physically go to the testing center. It is not available on online professional certification. You have to physically go to the service provider or the examination center, and you have to write this exam, right? This one is a certificate, which meaning certification. This is a certification. You are certified on 𝗕𝗔𝗀𝗃 cloud security profession. There is no need or necessary that you should be certified on CIA SSP. You can directly take the certification called CCSP directly, and preferably if you are already certified on CIA SSP, most of the people enable themselves to get certified on CCSP. That's a separate track, but you can always take directly CCSP as well. Or before you wanted to take a CCSP, you can always try CCSK from Cloud Security Alliance. Then you take the opportunity. But the course content, what they are going to test is basically they are going to test your knowledge on the terms, the definitions, and the terminologies what you use in this particular cloud environment, right? Even when you see the comparison between CISSP and CSSP, completely the terms and terminologies are related to cloud related things. So you have to be very careful in preparing yourself. Preparation is a must in both the examinations, CCSK or CCSP. Preparation yourself, it may take some person may take 1 month, some person may take 3 months to even try to attempt the first exam. So people give, once you buy a fee, they are it depends on the organization. You are eligible to attempt 2 attempts in CCSK point of view, right? Within 1 year, you can write the exam at any point in time. That's the concept of that. So it's up to the person. How are they going to enable themselves to get certified on CCSP or CCSK? Both are equivalent. Both are equally test your thorough knowledge on cloud security. That's what all about. You need to thoroughly prepare yourself before you even try to attempt the first attempt. Okay, let's go back to the domains of that. What are the various domains is talk about? CCSK specifically, right? So concept-wise, the terminology terms all are going to be the same. So today I'm trying to high level. I'm going to talk about all the 12 domains, and following a week and things like that, when they are going to arrange it, I'll maybe selecting either 2 domains per day or 3 domains per day with questions, MCQs, multiple choice questions. Try out 1 or 2 questions for each domains. If it is going to be a 4-week session, we will have 3 domains per week. Or if it is going to be a 6-week session, we'll be having 2 domains per week. That's what the future thing. Today I'm going to talk about all the 12 domains at very high level. I'm certified on CCSK, CCAK, CCSK version 3 as well as version 4 and version 5. The 2 certification I did it. Since I completed version 4, they had given an opportunity for me to write with minimum fees. Then I taken that opportunity. So I cleared both CCSK version 4 and as well as version 5. Okay, that's what I'm saying. It's an excellent experience when you write the examination. Preparation is a must. Okay, go in terms of what is the terminologies, what they use. This material, whatever I am providing, going to provide here, is completely from CCSK's domain. Almost both certifications are talking about the same terminologies. Both are taken from the NIST framework standard thing. Right. So the first domain is introduction to cloud computing, right? How are they defining it? Whether the public cloud or private cloud, what are the services they are offering, right? What is public cloud, private cloud, what based on the service models, what you consume, IaaS, SaaS, PaaS model. So that's what the definitions of the cloud computing, right? So the second domain is very, very important, GRC. They directly jump into GRC, right? So the reason they taken this domain, the priority is without proper governance, you cannot run a cloud environment. If it is, because your data is there in some other supplier's data center, you don't know how secure your data is in their environment. How do you manage to choose which model you are going to choose, right? Have you did your proper risk assessment? So the governance and strategy is going to drive the following domains. Right? You have to set your priorities, right? So it has to align. When you just because they are giving it is cost optimized in a cloud environment, it doesn't mean that you can go and consume cloud services. It has to be aligned with your corporate strategy, your company's overall aim, right? Company's overall business goal. It has to be aligned with that. Only then you can choose a cloud vendor, right? If you are having a private, your privacy data is much more important, and you are still having a doubt in hosting in a private or public cloud or private cloud, and never ever do that. So you can use public cloud or private cloud for a software development purpose, things like that. That's where you start always with that. Then you moving your data on a cloud, you have to take a thorough decision based on that. That is what the cloud governance strategy is talking about. Coming to risk, audit, and compliance, right? Are you compliant with the requirement of your regulators? Right? If you are there in a PCI DSS, the payment card industry, they are regulated by the payment card industry's data, right? The card data, your debit card, credit card, Visa, MasterCard, Rupee card, those the credit card PIN or CVE number, the credit card number itself should not go through a particular network, your corporate network. It should not be stored in your anywhere on transit. It should be there in the banking service provider, and nobody else will store the data. Even though you may be swiping the card in the payment POS at the sales, where the purchase of sales, where you're paying your amount, right? It should never ever be stored in the local hard disk. That's what the PCI standard. So if it is in the cloud environment, how you have to align your data, right? How are you storing your data? If it is stored, how encryption technology you are using it, all that. So you need to proper do a risk assessment, and audit and compliance is one critical domain which is going to make sure as a company, right? When you are as an organization and you are going through the ISO certification, and most of your services are already hosted in the cloud platform, right? In ISO standard, one particular domain itself, right? One particular group of controls are physical controls, right? So since you are already consuming your services through cloud, and you cannot even comply with any of the controls requirement of ISO, where all the physical controls are there, right? So in that case, what you need to do is you can go and download the certificate of ISO 27001 from AWS or Azure, Google Cloud, and tell, okay, your auditors that we are consuming the services from AWS. They are already certified and ISO, so we can which is called cascading. Certification can cascade. So since they are already certified and physical control, you don't need to do any of those things. So which is what which is talking about the compliance requirement. As long as your service providers are compliant with certificate, so those certificates can be shown as an artifact to your auditors. This can audit and compliance is at that particular domain. Organization management. How do you structure your cloud data? Right. So how do you make sure people are trained, people are aware of using the cloud platform? Right. How do you manage the change management, organization structure? Whether you are specifically for the data need to be stored in your own country. You know, cross-border data is allowed. If that is the requirement of a local law or a local regulator says your data should never ever should cross a particular country, cross-border. So you have to select a vendor whose data center is hosted in your own country. Right? So you need to check with all that comes under organizational control. Then specifically for identity and access management, we already talked about identity and access management, IDM, where majority of the misuse has happened in this particular domain. Right? The reason is it is just not alone the human being. It is also we need to focus on application programming interface where API. So the cloud services are completely interact with each other through APIs only. When your API is talking to each other, it needs a key to talk to each other. So the keys need to be protected, the keys need to be recycled, the keys need to be having a much stronger encryption algorithm. So if it is a symmetric key, much more carefulness is if it is going to be a asymmetric key. How do you manage all that? So key management, identity and access management, and we sometimes we provide the over privilege to a normal user that maybe get exploited and all that. So we need to use the concept called zero trust network access, ZTA, ZTN, that is coming into identity and access management. The another domain is very important, like we already know about what we do in an on-premise data center. This is called SOC, Security Operations Center, which we are enabled with so many tools are there for Splunk or 𝗕Radar or Wazoo or Log360, or many tools are there for performing the SIEM tools. Right? With in the cloud environment, SIEM is not even sufficient. Right? We need to have a SOAR, which should be automated. Right? Cloud meaning is everything is automated. Cloud automated tools are there, so you need to definitely involve cloud specific tools, which may, right, your existing tools may not even sufficient to monitor your Kubernetes, your Docker, right, your function as a service, facility as so many other services are specific to cloud environment, which current tool may not be even sufficient to capture that, right? Suddenly a service will start running, spin up a server, and once the program is over, it will get executed and the service will shut down. So there is no trace for when was the service was available. Right? Your server will automatically spin up when automatically shut down because of sudden peak in requirement of additional 2-3 web servers would have been added on your environment, and the load is down, and those 2 servers would have been shut down. So where is the question of taking the inventory of current inventory of how many servers are running in the system? Right? At that point in time, we had a 2 servers extra. Today, at this point in time, the number of servers are less. So it is a dynamic. The inventory is going to be a dynamic in cloud environment. So it is monitoring is also need to be dynamic. Right? Managing the monitoring of all the function as a service is going to be a major challenge. Right? So your existing tool set may not be directly applicable, will not give the correct result when you start monitoring with the existing tools to try to monitor a cloud environment. So completely you need to have a separate set of tools and which are supported by the cloud service provider. Right? that is the best option to go with cloud vendor provided tools and integrate with your on-premise tools. Then your complete infrastructure networking, these activities are going to be, majority of the activities are going to be managed by the cloud service provider themselves. It is a private cloud or public cloud vendor. They are going to manage the infrastructure and networking environment. Cloud workload security. This is what we are talking about, the Kubernetes and all the services which are running, function as a service. How do you protect that? So it needs a separate type of security protections are required when containers or serverless securities are there. And we need to talk about something called specific immutable services, immutable systems, meaning once particular services are rolled out or moved to production, no one will have access to that. Even the administrator will not even have access to that. Right? So in case those running production systems need to be patched, there is nothing called patching in that environment. Right? You spin up a new system with the new environment, with the new updated patches, and shut down the production environment and slowly divert your traffic to the new environment. So that is what called immutable services. And in cloud environment, almost all the service provider are enabled with immutable services. Right? Once it is moved to production, no one will have access to that. That's the best way of making sure reducing the attack surface. Right? So we are talking about the attack surface management. We wanted to reduce the attack surface management, which means as long as you make the system so no one will access to the system, it give you a confidence that systems are safe. And if there is a vulnerability found in the system, you spin up the new system and move the new system to the production and shut down the existing system. That's it better. Then the ninth domain is talking about data security, specifically data in motion, data in rest, data in use. Right? How are we going to encrypt it? Right? You use a TLS, you use symmetric key, asymmetric key. How do you recycle your key? Where do you store the key? Can you trust the private key to be managed by the cloud vendor? Right? In that case, you need to use a key management system, on-premise key management system, where you can keep the private key on your data center. Right? Why do you need to depend on a cloud service provider to generate the key? So you can manage your own key, bring your own key. Right? So the AWS or Azure, they will tell you bring your own key, meaning your asymmetric key, symmetric key mechanism. You have to have an on-premise key generator system, and you can keep your data within your own system so that you can make sure your API keys are not exposed to any of the attack, any of the users or any of the other. So you are trying to reduce the attack surface in that case. So that's what data classification, data protection, data encryption, data lifecycle management. Data some point in time need to be archived, or some point in time data need to be removed from the data center and the cloud environment. Right? If you think there is a requirement from the data privacy requirement, right? GDPR or DPDPA and all that. So customer can always say that I am going to withdraw my consent. I need to request the customer to delete all my privacy data and all that, which meaning it has to be acknowledged and it has to be deleted from the cloud environment. Right? So we may not know where exactly these data are getting replicated. Right? So we think that we are consuming services from Mumbai data center of AWS. We don't know whether the data is replicated across multiple different locations to store for resilience purpose. Right? So once it is deleted in Mumbai data center, does it mean that the other data center data are deleted or not? We don't know. Right? So those type of doubts or unclarified informations are always there. So you have to get clarified with the cloud provider and things like that. Or if it is going to be a private cloud vendor, the challenges are much more than a public cloud vendor. So data security perspective, you need to manage that. Application security. That particular domain is completely automated, right? In cloud environment, the software development lifecycle has transformed to CI/CD, continual integration, continual deployment, continual monitoring, CI/CD, CM, all that. So, which is agile methodology, and DevSecOps. The security is built into that. Development, security, operations are bundled or into a single view, and there will be always a checkpoint when data are moving from development to testing, development to security testing. It's all processed and approved based on the risk assessment is done, and any vulnerability is found based on the criticality of the vulnerability. Either it get passed or it get rejected, and it has to be, the developer need to redo all that, fix those issues before it moves to the next step, right? So then the application, we think application is only software development or the functional requirement of the customer requirement. It is completely your system administrator work is eliminated, right? You don't need a Unix administrator. You don't need a Windows administrator. All are done through simple infrastructure as a code, IAC, infrastructure as a code, which is all done through tools like Chef and Puppet, and various tools are unique tools are there within each cloud platform, right? So environments are written in a code, in a language called Python, or you can write it in Python as well, but there are specific tools are there like Chef and Puppet tools, Terraform. These are the tools specifically for, you can just tell I need so much memory, so much of CPU. You define what you need. So in a simple language, a C kind of language or a Python kind of language is nothing but Chef and Puppet, and the environment will automatically align with that. So it is going to eliminate any misconfiguration, right? So misconfigurations are going to be eliminated as long as you are going to employ, or you are going to completely roll out the programming, managing the environment through programs, right? So now application software development team as well as the infrastructure team are writing codes to manage the environment, right? So nowadays it's not even, you don't need to do that, right? You just ask Claude to write a code for I need a certain CPU, so it is going to write the code in Chef and Puppet automatically, and you need to run it and then enjoy using the system. It's completely eliminated person who needs to know Chef, Puppet or C, Python, all are because of the AI enablement, which is completely reduce the effort of software development. The program writing code and all are much faster, and it is all we need is the people who need to thoroughly test it. So there is an opportunity for us to properly test the code which are generated by the AI tools like Claude or anything, even Python codes are generated by Gemini, and all GPTs can generate the code, right? So application security is going to be the focus specifically for how do you manage the web application firewall and all, web security, infrastructure, IAC code and all that. Right? That's very important thing, right? All we are doing is to protect the customer data, right? All we are trying to do that is to protect proactively all the 10 domains, still 10 domains we are talking about protecting. Proactively, we are trying to do everything before something happens, right? Right. Even then attacks have happened, attackers are able to successfully get into your network and exploit their data. Right. In that case, what we need to do, right? So we need to have an incident response plan, right? Assume there is an attack happened, and how well are you prepared to recover from that? Right? How soon you can quickly recover from that? There are terms like MTTR, mean time to detect, mean time to recover. All the terminologies are there. That's the metrics for that, right? So how soon you can retrieve and come back online, come back to operations, right? So resilience is the term which is now used, which is a law, which is a requirement from regulators. Your environment need to be resilient, right? BCP DR is no more sufficient. You need to one step ahead of that, and you need to have a proper use case, proper uh, scenario-based BCP, business continuity plan, in case there is an attack, a ransomware attack has happened. Even then, you should come back within the committed service level to your customer. Within your committed level, maybe you may be committed to 5 hours of downtime, or whichever SLA you are committed. Within that downtime, you should be resilient. You should be come back online, provide the same level of services what you are providing earlier before the attack. So that sort of system is called resilient, meaning you should come back soon as uh, if some attack happened, you can come back to normal within a short period of time. So resilient should, meaning it needs a huge investment, huge testing, huge number of proactive planning is required. And not only that, the whatever plans you already have, that should be properly tested, and people should be aware of those procedures. So you need to do a proper DR drill or a business continuity plan, regular validation of the procedures are working fine. You have the complete set of other data center or whatever it is. Assuming there is a attack has happened, your data are encrypted. Uh, the attacker is not going to leave your data on the data center S3 bucket alone. They will try to corrupt the data which is already there in the backup. Right? So what do we need to do? If your data which is already backed up, which is also corrupted, which is also encrypted, what do we need to do? Attacker is aimed to attack not only your on-premise or a storage bucket, S3 bucket, or OneDrive, or wherever it is, G Drive, Google Drive, wherever the data are stored in data interest, they encrypt it and demand cryptocurrencies for the key. They also encrypt the backup the data. So in order to protect them, those backup data, you have to be write once. That's it. You cannot only read many times, right? So if you are going to engage with such a costlier environment, right, the backup the data will not be able to encrypt. Encryption can be prevented because that particular type of storage will only write once, and nobody else be able to redo or rewrite anything on that data. That's a cost-wise is much more. Right? Your critical data, much business critical data need to be backed up in those type of environment. That is what resilience is talking about. Disaster recovery, business continuity plan. This is not sufficient. There's a specific domain called related technologies. Now we are going to support it with the latest development, AI, right? Emerging technologies. AI is going to be used for SOC, artificial intelligence, machine learning. How they are going to support protecting the cloud environment, right? Zero trust network access, ZTN, ZTA. Never trust anyone. Always verify. That is the principle of zero trust, right? Which is specifically talking about 5 pillars are that. What is the time on which you are trying to log in? Is it allowed or not? Right? Which GPS location are you allowing? Trying to log into your environment, or which through which device are you logging in? So multiple parameters. It is just not a role-based access control, which is called attribute-based access control, ABCS. Right? What are the attributes? Attributes are related to time zone, which GPS location are you accessing the corporate network, through which device are you logging in, right? So it is going to check multiple different parameters. Are you only for this particular point in time you will be able to access a critical application. Remaining time you will not be able. So various parameters are. So the identity access management is exploded into multiple dimensions. Just because you are a role of a system administrator, you will be having access to it. There ends the role, right? Role-based access control is nothing but you say I am a Active Directory administrator. I am open to everything, right? which is not sufficient. Attackers are trained to get exploit that vulnerability, get into have a full blown access to that. So in order to reduce the attack surface, right? So you are going to bring additional control, which is nothing but attribute-based access control. Even though you are a role-based access control, then on top of that you have to provide controls like what time zone are you allowed? You will be allowed to access only during morning 8 till evening 5 only from the office premises, right? So you are able to. So those are the things. Okay, so we'll go one by one, a few high-level domain. These slides are just the essence, or I can call that cheat sheets for each domain. In a one single sheet, which is just composing all the requirements at a high level, right? So cloud one domain, which is talking about the definition of the cloud computing, and which is nothing but NIST, National Institute of Standard and Technology, which defines what is a cloud, meaning the service need to be provided on demand, self-service, right? User should not ask for an administrator to queue some services or servers. And on their own, they should be able to provide from the menus, things like that. They should be able to spin up servers on their own on-demand self-services. It should have broad network access, right? It's just not one particular on-premise. Your desktop will be there in on-premise data center, right? So GDC, all that. You don't. That's not sufficient. You can access from anywhere, anytime. Access broad network access. You should be able to access your cloud environment to your mobile phone, your iPhone, iPad, anything, right? Broad network access should be there. And resource pooling. The cloud service provider should not give a dedicated servers to one particular customer, right? The resources need to be pooled, and whichever services are excess services are there, it has to be. That is where the cost optimization and come to picture. When in an on-premise data center, when we did the analysis of what is the utilization, right? 70% of the data center are not utilized. The initial architecture will say based on the projection, right? So we will be having a huge volume of customer requirement. So they actually oversize. Everything will be oversized. They buy additional capacity as a capex and one-time investment. But the actual usage is not more than 30%. It's huge energy, cost, everything is wasted. So when a cloud service provider is going to be using those systems, instead of if you use only 30%, I can rent the rest of the 70% to another 2-3 customers, right? So that is the concept of that. Resource pooling is the principle for that. Rapid elasticity, right? The DDoS attack comes in, right? So systems will automatically create additional servers and able to take the real. If it is a real user is coming flooding, your Amazon will release a weekend sale or a special offer sale. All the people will be logging on that particular time. Right? It's huge volume will come suddenly because of some offer or a rush is there. That's what the internet is all about, right? Somebody is giving an offer, or even basically when you talk about travel, right? Where IRCTC travel is controlled by, now they are controlled by a particular time, right? So we will be able to log in. Your tactical booking is only for a particular period of time. This particular time, agents can log in. Otherwise, it is a huge. They are controlling the queue. Nothing but controlling the queue on the other side, right? So on the data center side, the system will automatically spin up additional servers. Maybe if it is required additional web server, it will recreate one web server instantaneously. Right? Another instance will add up and will get added into the cluster. Right? So load balance will happen automatically. Rapid elasticity, and the load is down, load is reduced, and automatically will shut down. some of the servers. Right? So at the end of the day, you will have the current, the consumption bill, right? So the inventory is dynamic. Inventory is because on the same day you may be using a 70 servers at the peak time, and when the normal hours it may be 30 servers, right? Sometimes few of the customers I have seen, right, they actually shut down the servers after 9 p.m., 10 p.m. They actually shut down the servers, and then next day morning only system will automatically come on ready. So that's called the rapid elasticity in the measured services, which is nothing but what is consumed, only you pay for that. Right? So that is the definition of the cloud computing. What are the various deployment model? We already talked about public cloud. Private cloud is specifically providing services one-on-one to specific customers. Private cloud. It may be cloud service provider premises, or the data center may be physically maybe there in your own data center. I mean, where it is providing, it doesn't matter. It is who is providing it. So it's a third party is providing it. So it's a private cloud vendor, right? Hybrid cloud vendor. Almost all the customers are only using hybrid model, right? Some few servers they keep it on premise, where critical data which cannot be put it in the cloud environment, right? The requirement of the customer are resilient, the regulators requirement, so many other controls requirements of the policy requirement. So due to that, they cannot put their critical servers in the cloud environment. In that case, they use hybrid model. It doesn't mean that, right? So some services multi-cloud. Now we are all talking about multi-cloud, meaning few of the services are best offered by cloud vendor like Google, or Google email is, it depends, right? Somebody will say Office 365 is better. Some will say Google email is better, whichever it is. And you can always switch from one cloud vendor to another cloud vendor without losing your email ID, right? So your customer name and at your customername.com. Your name at customername.com may be ID. That may be hosted in Office 365. If you are changing your decision to migrate your email IDs to Google, right, it's only service provider. But email ID is not going to change. Like whether you import, export your SIM card, right? Your mobile numbers doesn't change. You switch between Jio or Airtel or BSNL or various vendors, doesn't, without changing your mobile number. You are only changing the vendor. The same thing happens in the cloud, right? Are you stuck with one particular vendor? So that is what a vendor, the cloud provider charge data incoming data is free, but outgoing data is costly. That is where you get stuck. So vendor lock-in, indirectly they lock you forever with them, right? So they charge huge money when your data is going out of the data center. So you have to be very careful in that. So these are the combination. Anyhow, that's the model. The cloud environment, right? Community cloud. That's the one type of community cloud is a group of some companies like insurance companies, right? So are non-profit service providers. They can combine together and they can form a particular. It's a kind of a similar or extended private cloud. I can call community cloud is an extended private cloud for one particular group of community which has a common goal. They host everything in that particular environment, right? That's the deployment model altogether. But service models are very standard. But IaaS platform as a service, or software as a service. Now those things are now extended to various subdomains, sub-services, right? Within the infrastructure services, we can specifically talk about firewall as a service, or a backup as a service, or a storage as a service. So many other small services are tied together with the broad high-level services like infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, or software as a service. The reference architecture, the software are not talking about how are they compliance or standards, right? NIST framework is providing an excellent the reference model for cloud, and ISO has a standard for ISO 27017 is for cloud security for information management system. ISO IEC 17788 is talking about reference architecture of the cloud, and we already talked about the Cloud Security Alliance, CCM, Cloud Control Metrics, 𝗕𝗍𝗂𝗋, things like that, right? So how are the various architecture layer they are put together? Then we need to talk about the responsibility model, that RACI model, which we already shown the example of with the CCM, who is accountable, who is responsible in a shared model, right? We actually taken an example of AWS CCM 𝗕𝗍𝗂𝗋 report from their website, and they are clearly documenting this is AWS responsibility. This particular requirement is a shared responsibility, and some responsibilities are completely customers' responsibility. So they are talking about that in terms of that. Right? So, physical security is naturally it is on the cloud service provider. Right? Cloud consumer responsibilities are mainly talking about the identity and access management. If it is IaaS, you as a customer you need to manage the operating system and all that. So that is what it talks about cloud computing architecture at a high level, which consists of 4 subdomains. This domain 1 consists of 4 subdomains, cloud computing and all that. So like we just talked about your fundamental NASD framework, IaaS, SaaS, PaaS model, and public-private cloud hybrid model, community cloud model, right? So within the cloud service provider, what they give more than 100 or 200 different services they have. Right? Compute, storage. When you talk about storage has multiple versions of it, right? S3 bucket is a kind of a object storage. You want a file storage, right? Block storage. Various type of storages are available. It depends on what type of response you need. Right? You want to archive your data, right? You can store it in a write once, read many times, now type of storage. The response time, how many milliseconds you need to retrieve the data. You should not wait for the system to read and retrieve from the tape and things like that. It takes long hours. There are multiple medias are there for that. So cloud service provider offers different services, and that's the high level. In the computing model, we already talked about services like deployment model, right? Public-private cloud hybrid model, and what sort of services they are providing it. Which one you need to choose? It depends on what exactly you are trying to achieve. Is it for a business critical application? Requirement may be different, or it is going to be a DevOps, SDLC, software development lifecycle. Completely, it may be different. So, what you choose for what purpose? So, all the decision has to happen from what exactly you are trying to achieve. So, you can pick and choose what type of services you want. That is how you finally land engagement. Maybe engaged with a hybrid model. Some services you may be using a private cloud vendor. Some services you may be using a IaaS. Some services you may be using a PaaS from a private cloud, SaaS from a public cloud vendor. It depends on all sort of combinations will be there. Finally, you will end up in something, the term called multi-cloud, multi-services hybrid model. That is what you will finally will land in that. But managing that, you need to have a proper governance within the organization. Otherwise, if there is no monitoring in place, you may not have a proper cost control, right? Finally, you will be end up after 2-3 years, you will see if it is not properly controlled, you will say, right, my cost of operation is much more than why did I went into a cloud environment? I should have continued to be there on-premise. I would have much control on data, much control on cost control, everything would have been. So there are people bent back to their on-premise data center because of one reason, that there was no proper validation happened, proper assessment happened, proper gap assessment happened. So there was no proper business case was not evaluated properly. So they went into the cloud, and after some time they went back to on-premise. That also happens, and it depends, right? So if your business case is so strong and you are justified that the cloud is going to beneficial for your customer and all that, you can sustain in cloud environment forever. So you need to do a proper gap assessment or initial pre-assessment why you are going to choose. Think through a long-term perspective. Don't think through a short-term. Just because you get some discount, this offer, that is not going to provide a sustainable beneficial to you in terms of cost, in terms of security and all the other factors. You have to consider all that. As we already talked about the reference architecture model, Cloud Security Alliance, CCM, 𝗕𝗀𝗀𝗃 is the reference model. You can download the 198 controls and go through that and be familiar with what controls are shared responsibility model. Let's talk about that. And the responsibility models we already talked about. Who is going to be responsible for that? So at a high level, here we are talking about the data application layer, identity access management layer with a very high level placement. Network control is managed by you when it is an IaaS platform. If it is going to be a SaaS platform, the cloud service provider is going to manage the entire thing. Right? In security model, we always request to do security by design, security by default, or privacy by design, privacy by default. These are the two fundamental requirements whenever proactively you do in the architecture. Right? One example, right? A default username password will be built into any operating system, right? The moment you start running in, if it is going to be a secured or properly designed, proactively security by design operating system, once it starts up, right, system will make sure you modify the default password, only then it will allow you to log in. That is the concept called security by design. So default password has to be provided, but it has to be changed the first time you log in. It should enforce you to change the password. That is the concept called security by design. Right. Defense in depth. Right. So one control is not sufficient. In some scenarios, one control will reduce your risk to a certain level, but your risk appetite is much less. Right? You cannot withstand that one control is not even sufficient to reduce the level to an acceptable risk limit at this threshold level. Right? So you have to bring in another control. Take for example, right? Your multi-factor authentication is an example of that. One control like password control, what you know, which is nothing but your 8-character long password with all combinations of A to Z and numbers, special characters, which is easily brokeable by any password breaking tools. Right? It may not even take a minute or so to break into your environment. So what is the solution to that? One control is not sufficient. So you have to put a second control, multi-factor authentication. Either you get a OTP from your service provider, or you can engage with an application which is running in your mobile phone, like Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator, that will give a 6-digit PIN code that you enter into the application to log in. So that is second control, which you bring multi-factor authentication control to make sure nobody else will log in without, even though they have access to the first control fails, you have the second control to protect you. So then the zero trust model is brought in, right? As we talk about role-based access control is not sufficient enough today. In the environment of AI world, we have to bring additional control, which is called attribute-based access control. Never trust anyone, always verify. So this tools is going to be implemented with NDR, XDR, EDR, all that detection and response tools, which is nothing but, yes, you are authorized, you are authenticated, you are authorized to do certain activities, you have access to all the applications, fine. I don't believe you. It will monitor what you do in the system after 10 minutes. After 30 minutes also, it will keep monitoring what are you doing in the system, which is called User Entity Behavior Analytics, UBER, right? Which is going to monitor what you do in the system. If it finds any anomaly, it is going to log you out of the system, which is all built into zero trust model. So zero trust model, you cannot buy a tool, right? I can buy a tool for SOC or SIM tool. Go to IBM, they give a QRadar. You go to Splunk, they'll give a variety of tools for that, right? For monitoring all that. But whereas zero trust, it is a principle, it is a combination of people, process, technology. It cannot be implemented just by tools alone. You have to make sure people are trained on the concept of zero trust without people accepting that particular process. Right? Implementing, rolling out a zero trust process in an environment is very difficult. It has to be accomplished with a project, making sure people are accepting the concept called they are going to be monitored after they log in. Suddenly they will be logged out because they search a tool within the environment which is accessing critical. There might be, organization might be having an internal honeypot and all that, that will give you a warning, right? Somebody is trying to access an S3 bucket, right, which they are not supposed to. Right? It will log you out of the system. So it is a concept. Zero trust access implementation is a project work, it's a combined effort of people, process, and technology, both put together. So that's what it is on the 1.4 version of that. Right? In domain 2 is, as I said, governance. Without governance, never ever start cloud implementation. Get the management support, and then you have to have proper, the top layer, thorough, they are going to decide whether are you ready for migrating our data center to cloud. You may be already migrated on a cloud environment. Some servers are running on that. Can you continue to run your environment in the cloud? Does it give a business value for you to run the cloud environment? You have to reassess yourself. You might have made a mistake by, at that point in 2 years back, 3 years back, you would have migrated to cloud environment. Is it today value? It is still giving a value that, right? So you have to reassess yourself. Running a platform in a cloud environment, okay, you may be running an IaaS. Can you switch to IaaS to PaaS? So that decision also can happen. You may be running in a private cloud. Can you switch to public cloud? So any sort of combination will assess you are running a particular email, right? Is it giving a value to the organization? Is it costly or more? Are you giving a special services, extra features are you getting? What is the value you get out of that, right? Either Google, you can migrate anything, right? Without the ID change, email ID change, you can migrate from Google Cloud to email to Office 365 anywhere, in any other private vendor. right? He may be giving a much cheaper price, right? So what value? This is all up to the organization to decide value. Value is nothing but at a minimum risk, what is the best maximum benefit you get, right? On a long-term strategy, is it worth to implement to continue to run your environment in the cloud platform? That is what talking about the cloud governance, right? Once you decide, yes, we need to go into that, and you have to clearly define the policies, right? Otherwise, new project, right? You will always get a new proposal. Business proposal will come to our table and then ask for approval, right? So it is very difficult. Every project, the senior management will not even aware of all that. So they have to clearly document, okay, these are the policies saying our software development environment, without asking a special approval, you can host it in any cloud platform. Right? If it is a business critical application, come up with a business proposal and risk assessment plan. You have to define a policy, right? What to host in the cloud, what not to host in the cloud, what is a special approval, what is your policy says, what sort of cloud you can approve. Otherwise, what happens is, in a cloud, in an organization, you will, without knowing, right, or IT team, without IT team knowing, there will be multiple business will run their own cloud centers, right, which is going to be a danger for the organization. At some point in time, if they are running such without the knowledge of the IT team, right, attacker can come through them. They may not even did a proper risk assessment, all that. So they may not have a latest updated IAS servers. Somebody would have left the organization, unattended systems will be keep running, going to run forever. Bill will come, IT team, business, your finance team will not know what for, right? They will keep paying them. There's no control on that. So you have to have proper control. Policy should be in place. Which system we should host in the cloud, which system need to thoroughly do a risk assessment before start hosting it. It is still supported by the top management. Without that, some business team decided to host it without getting a proper support from senior management. That project may run today, next 2-3 months. At some point in time, that will fail. At that time, the IT team is not going to come and support you. Okay, so that's what the importance of cloud governance. Right? You have to monitor in place. You have to continuously improve. Right? What is the benefit out of that you are getting it? Effective cloud governance. This it should be. We keep talking about the business alignment. Without getting a business alignment, business senior leadership, none of the IT project will successfully run. Right? Hierarchy, business governance, enterprise governance. You need to have clear governance layer. Right? So as this particular domain has a particular segment like cloud governance, we already talk about the policies, roles and responsibilities, process, procedures need to be defined. Accountability. The main is the governance is going to define who is accountable for either using the cloud platform is successful. It has to be continuous to monitor. Is it effective for us to run this application on the cloud platform? Right? So we have seen customers who get stuck because they could not come out of the vendor, because if they have to take out the data, it is going to cost much more, because the data export is charged based on the number of bits, number of bytes, number of gigabytes or terabytes going out of the network. Each terabyte is going to cost you much more. It's already lying in their data center. Okay, then they think that, okay, it's only for retrieval, archival purpose. Okay, let it run. But that is where the customer knows, or the vendor knows this customer cannot go out of the network. So they charge much more money than, right? There is no option for them. So it's called vendor lock-in period. Vendor lock-in, that's it. So one way they get locked to that vendor, they cannot come out of. So all sort of risks are there. So this is to be proactively discussed with your team and then decided. So that's the benefit of that. So another subdomain is effective cloud governance is going to give a value to the business, right? Value, cost efficiency, right? You have to say risk. Is this environment is risk posture is, are we is the cloud service provider is certified, is continue to have a compliance requirement for privacy data and all that. So because we are depending on some third-party vendor, right? If it is a cloud, a public cloud vendor, they are giving their certificate openly, like AWS is publishing on the internet. Anybody can say that how their environment is compliant to all these international requirements, right? If it is got a private small vendors, right? How do you know your data are well protected? Right? You cannot go and do a physical checking on their data center, things like that. That's restricted, right? They will not allow you. And in that case, can you do a VAPT on their environment? It's all restricted, right? If it is going to be in our own environment, we run ethical hacking or VAPT on our own environment. Running a VAPT on a cloud environment is restricted. You have to get permissions before doing. They will give your VAPT should not affect any other instance running, because sometimes your VAPT tool will cross over to other hosted platform, some other customer's data, right? So it is going to be miserable. So they will not allow for that purpose, right? So we have to get a report from them. They have to run. It is, as long as it is contractually obliged, they will not say. They will say we have a compliant to all the requirements. That's it. So you cannot get a copy of a VAPT report, vulnerability report from them. So restricted. So you have to have a proper right to audit or right to get a copy of the report of a SOC 2 assessment, SOC type 1, type 2 assessment. Right? It's all going to be in a private cloud vendor. If it is a public cloud vendor, right, it's one way, right? Whatever they dictate, you have to accept. They are big companies like AWS, Azure. Just say sign and then start using it. Anyway, they are transparent, right? You have to get a special attention in case you need additional. For an additional fee, you have to get those services as well. That's the requirement, right? So you have to decide upfront all that. Hierarchy, governance hierarchy, right? Operational, at the bottom, operational governance. So governance itself is spread into multiple layers. Business governance, enterprise governance, domain functional governance, right? Project-wise, deployment-wise, project-wise, work governance, right? Operational governance. So they're all supporting the overall governance of the organization, which is a subdomain within the 2.3. Right? Strategy, policy, security, optimization, value. It is focused on value driven. Right? Any strategy will be focused on value driven. Are we getting a business value out of the value? May be quantifiable, or sometimes it may not be quantifiable. Right? Value may be the perception. Right? Your customer perception is a value. Right? You are safe. Customer says that my data will be safe if I go to this particular vendor. That's a perception. They are not going to audit and all that, but they say, okay, this company is a trustable company because of so and so reason, right? So since last 10 years, they have committed whatever commitment they made. They have given that, so you trust them. Right? So that's where you value. Value is quantifiable. Sometimes it cannot be quantifiable. You always optimize the cost. This is the one driving factor, whether to continue to run on the cloud platform. Are you giving a value out of it, right? So value optimization. Security is a critical aspect. This is what our domain is, right? So how are you going to protect your organization data or customers' data? Because sometimes we are providing a third-party services to another customer. Their data are hosted in our platform. Right? In case it is a PII data, personally identifiable information data, or PHI, personal healthcare information data, much more critical. Right? So security is a key aspect of that. Right? So strategy has to be designed at the top layer, then you have to do that. Third domain is the interesting domain. My favorite domain, risk and audit. Right? Risk is nothing but uncertainty in obtaining or gaining your objective. What is risk? Risk is a uncertainty in achieving the objective. It's a very simple term used by ISO standard 𝗕𝗀𝗶𝗃𝗀. Right? It is a standard for risk management across any vertical, any horizontal. It's open standard, right? It's ISO standard, common across any platform, right? You can use the standard for business finance, you can use the standard for infrastructure, you can use this ISO 31000 for AI risk management. It's even today it is valid for any vertical horizontal. Principles are very attractive, right? So it talks about risk is nothing but uncertainty in meeting your objective. Risk may be positive, risk may be negative. So you talk about various other things, right? So in a cloud environment, you have to focus on cloud environment. So ISO 27005 is talking about risk management in ISMS, information security management. Right? ISO 27017 is talking about within that standard is talking about risk within the cloud environment. Hosting privacy data in a cloud environment, what is going to be the impact of that? So risk in terms of threat, right? The risk is nothing but two factors are there. Right? What is the probability of the attacker going to exploit the vulnerability which are there in the environment? What type of vulnerabilities are there in the cloud environment? Like misconfiguration, the S3 bucket is exposed in the internet because your keys are there accessible to the attacker. Right? You are not changed your default password. Right? Your API keys are not changed. Is there available directly downloadable from internet. Your keys are already embedded in the program which is there in the memory. Somebody has read the memory in the online. So automatically they have got the keys also. And the keys are not encrypted when in transit. So various other problems because of that. They have to do a risk assessment. The step one is risk assessment is nothing but you have to have a complete history of your assets. Now we are talking about the risk of cloud risk, right? So you need to have a complete risk asset management in the cloud. Is it easy or difficult? Compared to on-premise data center, we will know by running a one simple command, right? It will give you the history of all the services, all the service servers, all the instances, licenses, whatever you have from the console, right? The AWS have the console. From the console, you can get everything, right? In the cloud environment, assets are dynamic. Today, you may be running a 2 server extra. The same server, the next 2 days, Saturday, Sunday, you are not going to use that. Your asset may be zero because you would have switched off your servers instances on Friday night. Right? Only you coming into the Monday morning, so you will be having all the servers will start running. Right? So it is like pay per use, pay by use, things like that. Right? So the number of assets are dynamic. Today on Saturday, Sunday, asset there is no asset. We don't use any service. Color zero. But on Monday, I have 100 servers running for my services. So it's a dynamic, right? So we need to know the assets. Just The assets are nothing but the instances or services running on the cloud platform, and you need to know the software running on that, applications running on that, software asset, and cryptographic assets, nothing but your API keys and all the other cryptographic keys, cryptographic algorithm, what you use it, all that. And if nowadays all starting AI also, right? So AI algorithm, AI bill of materials, right? Physical bill of material, there is no need of that because we don't do in maintaining a physical bill. That's the responsibility of the cloud service provider's responsibility. So physical bill of material is not required, but we need to have a complete software bill of material, license bill of material, AI bill of material, cryptographic bill of material. That's what the asset management is all about in cloud. Once we know the asset, you have to classify the asset. What is critical, what is non-critical, what is public data, and classify the asset. Once you classify the asset, then you talk about how to protect the asset, right? Each asset may have different vulnerabilities, right? So if it is a Linux operating system, different type of vulnerability. If it is you are running a Apache web server, you will have a log4j vulnerability. You have a Entra ID, you have a different type of identity access management related vulnerability, right? So if you're running a Okta cloud service provider, third-party service provider, right? They run a different in cloud environment, right? So when you use OpenID Connect or a SAML or identity access management provisions by third-party vendor, all that is required because you wanted to have a single sign-on. You are engaging with a service provider who manage the identity management by a third-party service provider. In that case, how are you going to do that? That's the agenda of the risk management, vulnerability management. These vulnerabilities are now and then found by new vulnerabilities are found by nowadays, right? The AI tools like Mythos and all that. It instantaneously found vulnerabilities which never exposed by existing VAPT tool like Pubsuit or Zap tool, WASP, Zap tool. So various vulnerability tools are there, right? So Mythos able to find vulnerabilities which are running in applications running in mainframe like COBOL and all that. So those vulnerabilities are exposed now. They are given time frame within 6 months time. You have to fix all those issues. Major companies are working on that to fix the existing vulnerabilities in the operating system, the applications and all that. Anyhow, if in the moment it is going to be exposed publicly, attackers will do the 0-day attack, not even 0-day attack, 0-hour attack, because they have tools to exploit that vulnerabilities. Right? You have to perform a proper risk management. And once the vulnerabilities are known, vulnerability management vulnerabilities are recorded, and organization like NVD, National Vulnerability Database, they maintain, they store all the vulnerability databases and exposing to the public. Right? So if the vulnerabilities are exposed and the attacker have excellent tool to exploit the vulnerabilities like software as a service, right? They engage a software as a service provider to exploit the vulnerabilities, ransomware as a service, Metasploit. So various tools they have to create vulnerabilities to exploit the vulnerability. So it is basically the intention of the attacker. It is just because you have a vulnerability doesn't mean that you are going to be attacked by the attacker. It is the interest of the attacker who wanted to exploit the vulnerability. If they come to know that this vulnerability is there, and if there is a value return on, they also don't want to spend their effort time to break opening your environment. Right? At the end of the day, they may not get any money out of you. Right? So who is the big fish? Right? Only they will attack them to get for a short gain. Right? For a small investment, make a big gain. That's their attack vision. But we need to protect our environment, so we have to run a proper risk assessment. Risk assessment is nothing but identifying what probability that attacker is going to exploit the vulnerabilities which are there in the environment. If it is happened, what is going to be impacted? Is your critical systems is going to impact, or a normal publicly available data? If it is getting attacked, it doesn't matter, right? It's already publicly available. Why they wanted to attack and encrypt the publicly already available data? So there's no point in doing that. You have to do that. So you have to have an internal auditors on a regular basis. You have to do that. You have to engage with a third-party auditor, second-party auditor. If you are going for a compliance requirement, you have to engage with a third-party auditor to get audit based on the compliance requirement or ISO standard requirement. And you will get certified in all that. Compliance is different. Compliance is your verticals, your regulators, your law, your country's requirement act. Right? That is going to dictate you should comply with the requirement of the national law and all security requirement, protect your customer data. If it is personal data, you have to protect the GDPR, all that requirements. Compliance requirements. GRC requirements. Right? So within the domain 3, which are having a 3 subdomains, right? Cloud risk management. Risk management, we just high level we talked about identify the risk, and once you identify the risk, you have to classify the risk, or you have to perform the impact assessment of the risk and come up with a rating, come up with a which is the topmost critical risk we need to mitigate. Right? So mitigation is a risk treatment, that is called risk treatment, which is itself has a 4-step process, right? You can avoid the risk because we don't need to engage or migrate our data center to the cloud. That's completely avoid. Right? If it is a critical business, personally identifiable information, they say, no, why do you want to host it in the cloud platform? That to private cloud, that to public cloud. Right? If there's a threat in that, you avoid that. Second thing is mitigate, right? One control is not sufficient, you bring another control. Second control, third control. Multi-factor authentication, once it's control. Any privileged access management should be enforced with a multi-factor authentication for the administrator to log into a console of AWS. They should use multi-factor authentication, right? So you put additional controls to make sure it is done with respect to that. Right. So once the controls are implemented, your risk level is reduced. Right? You monitor whether the risk level is within the risk appetite, within your risk threshold value. If it is within that limit, you accept. If it is not, you get a special approval from your senior management. Exceptions. And compliance and audit, GRC tools are there for that. As we say, identify the risk, assess the risk, treat the risk, monitor, continue to monitor, and review and improve upon. So that's a risk management specifically for the cloud environment. In case there is a cyber attack happening on a cloud environment, it is not one you as a customer, it's the entire customer set going to be impacted, right? Israel-Iran war, right? AWS centers where data centers were demolished. What happens, right? Anyhow, they have completely already replicated, so they're able to still survive. Right? If it is going to be a private cloud vendor, it's gone. Right? One data center. The second data center is also there within 50 kilometers away from that primary location. One war, one bomb will destroy the entire city. It is going to be a complete risk. So hosting in a cloud provider, right? Where do you host it? It's a subscription based. You have to make sure your data are getting replicated in another country. You are taking a risk of that, right? Within a war zone, you have to make sure your data are replicated across multiple different geography. Right? So those things are coming under cloud risk management. Right? Continue to monitor. The new type of risk keep coming in, right? if AI tools are already in hands of the attackers or the cyber world or underground or dark web, deep web, they are engaging the AI tools to attack, right? Worm, GPT, so many tools are there. AI tools to do hacking. Engage with that. Compliance and audit domain is another specific domain for that. 3.3 is talking about the tools and technologies for the, so native tools are better. AI cloud service provider native tools are better, or you engage with a third-party special provision for that. So one such tools are cloud security posture management, CSPM, which is going to monitor what is the security posture of the organization out of rank 1 to 10. What is the security posture of your environment? You need to continue to report with that. This is nothing but getting feeds from various sub tools to come up with the security risk management posture. So CSPM is the term what we use it here. That will give you the complete history of that. So with this, I stop here for a 2-hour session. We will continue to have our the next session. We will announce soon. I'll stop here, and if any questions are there in the chat box, I'll try to answer it today or sometime later. We will answer it on that.
I think there are not any such questions in the chat box, but with respect to the recordings of this session will be available on MOS LinkedIn, MOS YouTube channel. So I've already given you the link over the chat. And second, with respect to the slides, we will provide the PDF of this. And thank you so much, sir, for putting so much efforts in explaining this topic. And thank you for your insights on this topic. Thanks for making it so engaging. And thank you to the participants who stayed with us throughout the session and made this successful. Thank you, everyone, for joining in, and see you in the next series of this.
Okay, thank you all. Thank you all for your.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Bye.